Hi, the date is the 16th of July, 2026, and I've got a lot of problems. That's just a fact. I came into this world kind of like a blank slate, and then through the external world and things happening to me, I developed certain issues, and that's just, it is what it is. But after acknowledging those issues and accepting those issues, I went about the wrong way of fixing them, and it ended up causing more damage because I thought that to accept myself and to kind of prove to myself that I am worth something, that I have self-worth, self-esteem, whatever you call it, I thought that that was something you had to earn. And so I started overperforming, and as I've grown up, with conditional love and stuff, I thought that love was something you had to earn. So I thought before I gave myself love, I had to earn it. And that led to me putting a ton of pressure on myself and holding myself to a really high standard, which in turn led where I was dealing with people pleasing and masking and all of the above in that area. I realized that I should hold other people to the same standard I hold myself to. And at this point, I had developed a really high standard for myself that even I was struggling to meet. So I ended up getting upset at all the people around me and pushing them away and putting up boundaries away from them because they couldn't hold themselves to an impossible standard I set for them. And in the end, I couldn't hold myself to that standard either, and I just ended up hating myself. So that wasn't the best way to go about solving those issues, and now I kind of want to reframe it because that was a lot of pressure, and when all that pressure came off, I crashed. Like, I've talked about how I spent like a whole week like just laying in my bed and doing nothing. But now for round two, I shave my head, or the signifying we're going to round two of tackling Rivers issues. We should make a YouTube series out of this. So round two, I'm not gonna hold myself to an insanely high standard, whereas I'm going to enjoy life and survive while focusing directly in on the problems. Because originally I was like, I need to go to the gym, and I should go on walks, I should do a cold shower, I should do all this. And I was like, if I fix my entire life, that will result in these things ending up fixed. But now I'm understanding that it doesn't necessarily fix your issues as much as it covers them up. So just building a life worth living is good, and building a high standard of living your life is good over time, but not all at once, and not replacing living as a high functioning person as solving your problems, which was my issue. So second time around, I'm going to focus in on those issues, especially around self-worth. I'm going to, instead of holding people to a high standard, and they're late today, they're 15 minutes late, and they can't do this again, they're disrespecting me, and out of self-respect, I'm going to not hang out with them again. I'm going to say to myself, I shouldn't hold them to that high of a standard, and if that's something that bothers me, I can communicate that to them in the proper way, if that makes sense. And this is also around my, I used to watch a lot of adult content growing up, and it kind of rewired my brain into what I'm attracted to, and that's something I want to kind of unwire. I want to go back to the natural state of attraction instead of having a sort of niche preference from what I used to watch online. And so to do that, previously to do that, I just cut that side of me off. I was like going, abstaining, not doing anything, and then just gonna wait till I have a healthy relationship to base that around. But second time around, I'm actually going to talk to someone about it. I'm gonna find like a professional and actually talk about some options of how to rewire my brain to solve that issue. Because, it's just one of those things. You come into the world of blank slate, and because of the external world, because of the technology use and kind of the society we lived in, that happened. And now got to do the repairs. But I would rather live knowing there's something wrong with me and striving to fix it than live acting like everything is okay. And I think I've seen this in other people where people look normal. They look like just blank slates, like, they just look like normal human beings. And then when you get to know them, like more on a deeper level, you can kind of see how the external world has done, I don't want to say damage, but has caused certain changes compared to how how you would imagine the average person growing up. This person, we all have those things. But I find a lot of people, they just don't address them. And it's a common example of what I've been doing is super successful people that are super insecure about something. You know how people joke about you drive a nice car, you're insecure about something, like a part of your body. That is an example of what I was doing, except I was kind of health maxing instead of money maxing. I was acting really healthy and making money. It was kind of like building the life I wanted, so it's way easier to hide, because I think it's a more understandable and easier to recognize stereotype. I'm getting a lot of money, I'm getting cars, oh, I'm just covering up this insecurity, then I'm building the life I want to and becoming the person I want to because I don't want to confront this insecurity. And in the end, it was the same thing. And so this time around, I'm genuinely looking straight at that insecurity, and I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself in other areas of my life while I'm focusing on these specific things. Yeah. And, I always thought that people would prioritize what they wanted, like my friends didn't always prioritize hanging out with me, so I blame that on them. And that is partially true, but you also have to have grace with people, because now that I'm gonna be focusing on my problems, I can kind of see how if other people were doing the same thing, they might end up late to hanging out, or they might have this if they are preoccupied with something else. So I kind of like have that newfound sense of like compassion for people like that. But yeah, so we're going to be tackling those problems. Another problem that I don't know, I think is worth mentioning is my empathy. And not to go too deep into it, but growing up, conditional love, not saying, like, not blaming my parents or anything. They gave me a decent childhood, and I'm kind of just approaching it as it is what it is scenario, not like I wish I could have gone back and changed that. It happened, it is what it is. And so my parents growing up with conditional love, I had to manage people in my family. I had to manage certain people's emotional state and to receive that love, which made me very empathetic. So I need to know what they're feeling, so I become very empathetic and I wouldn't call it manipulative, but as a kid, you can't be manipulative. You just need to get your needs met. You just have to get your needs met. And so managing the emotional state of certain family members was how I got my needs met, which was how I got my care and my love and all of that. And so that has made me extremely empathetic, and as you get older, it looks more and more like manipulative. So, but I have pure intentions. So when I'm messaging a girl, I'm trying to think what she thinks, or I'm trying to not say something wrong, and trying to say stuff to kind of make her, or kind of make it so she sees the real me and sees the authentic me and doesn't get the wrong idea of me. But I understand that now I just need to actively be me and let people see that, and not trying to control their perception of me, which is another thing that I'm working through. That the answer is a bit more straightforward, of just being me, you know, and not worrying about what other people think, and then seeing the change in my life. But just thought that was like a extra bit worth mentioning, you know. And I'm sure there's 100 more problems, but you know, the main few first, and tracking them down to their core, solving that, and then moving on with my life, you know. But yeah. I don't know if I have much else to say. I've been reading a lot of comments, I've read every comment ever put on this channel, and it's like, it really makes me like, I don't want to say content, but that sense of fulfillment you get when it's like you've done something good. I don't know. But it's really nice reading all the comments, and I really love them all, and like very supportive stuff. But yeah, and it's nice to know that people still appreciate authentic content, where in a world where that's very rare. Especially, I took a little inspiration from a few people who made what I saw as authentic content, and I hope that someday people will take inspiration from my content to make authentic content, because, you know, I make what I like to watch, and I love watching authentic content, and so I kind of just want to put more of that out into the world, and I'm so glad that people actually do like watching that. So if anyone made it to the end, thanks for watching this video. That's the end of the video.